see it.
Owner.
And I know this.
I forgot what state it was in, but you definitely qualify for dirtbag of the week.
And the way I see it,
inflammatory sign.
And the way I see it, and according to statistics, the United States of America is the second largest Spanish-speaking country. Because majority of the people here in this country do speak Spanish.
They speak Espanol, folks.
English is not the official language of this country. It never has. It never was. And it never will be. We are basically a melting pot full of culture. It's time to embrace it. So if you're Slovakian, Turkish, Iranian, Iraqi, Arabic, Malaysian, Japanese, Chinese, Korean, whatever, embrace it. Embrace those channels. Embrace your differences.
In our personal favorite country, oh, Mother Russia. Not really.
Nuh-uh.
But even there, too.
Because let's face the fact.
You come in here and pass.
Let's face the fact. A certain idiot never took history class.
Keep in mind, if you come here and you pass the test, you are a United States citizen, even if you come from Mother Russia and the USSR.
Even if you come from Kuala Lumpur, you're still a citizen. By law.
Uganda, Sicily.
Rwanda.
Wherever. Uganda.
Mm-hmm.
Puerto Vallarta.
Zimbabwe, Kenya. And to quote the late Chadwick Boseman, even this country is fictional. Wakanda forever. Rest in peace, man. We could take a lesson from Chadwick Boseman. He didn't have a decent hating bone in his body when he played as Jackie Robinson. If he was still alive, we would thank him for that. Because he told Jackie Robinson story how he was treated back when he was a baseball player. And one baseball player in particular had to eat crow for after what he said to Jackie Robinson. And that was right after he got traded.
If my math is correct, Branch Rickey in 1947, when he had a plan to bring Jackie Robinson up from the Montreal AAA team where they played at Cherry Park, there were a couple of players that were not happy that Jackie Robinson was coming up. And Branch Rickey basically asked them point blank, if Jackie Robinson came up to the Dodgers, which he did at the time they were in Brooklyn, before they moved to LA later on in the 50s or 60s or something like that.
Yeah, it was probably
from Brooklyn to LA. Those players basically got asked point blank by Branch Rickey, would you play with Jackie Robinson or would you want out? And they basically said they wanted one. I think one of the players said he would actually play with him. The other one was so bent on not playing with him, he basically traded into Siberia at the time, which was and still is the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yep. And at that time, Jackie Robinson beat the mess out of him.
Which is still the Siberia of the National League.
Yeah.
Even though they've had their moments.
Yeah.
And they've only been to the top once. 1970, We Are Family, Willie Stargell. Thank you.
Yep.
And they've not been back there in 5 decades.
Yeah. And let's take Jesse Owens, for example. If he didn't listen to the track and field coach at Yale, he would have never ran in the 1936 Olympics to begin with. As the world's fastest man. And that gave us Usain Bolt. Of all people.
He was Usain Bolt before Usain Bolt was cool.
Born. Yeah, he was.
Usain Bolt couldn't even dream of being a Jesse. I don't know if we really have many Jesse Owens or any people from back in the day that could actually stand up to tyranny the way that they did.
Yep.
I really do not know in my heart of hearts if I can think of few people of today that could do what they did in the times that they did it in. That's
true enough.
More remarkable.
Yeah, and right now we got athletes today
Pay attention to your history.
who had experienced racism at the hands of the police the very first hand. Willie Moults, as I remember when I mentioned this to you, he was unlawfully detained outside the hospital that his mother was at, and after they let him go, they were told she had passed away.
I heard, you know what? I heard that story. I think they said something about that story. I think I heard something about it last week.
Yeah.
Where he was basically driving home from a Milwaukee Bucks game or going to the hospital or something.
That was Sterling.
In the hospital.
Yep.
And I think his wife
was pregnant at the time.
Their kid at the time.
Yes, that was it. That was it.
We talked about that just last week.
Yes, that was it. Then Sterling K. Brown of the Milwaukee Bucks, he got unlawfully detained for shopping at a grocery store.
While his mother was in the hospital.
That was Willie Moults' mother was in the hospital.
Dying.
Yes.
Let's put that in its proper perspective here, kids. This man was going to go see his mother
before she passed.
And he gets unlawfully detained by a bunch of idiots.
A Houston PD.
Ugh.
Yes.
And when I heard that story, I thought my stomach was literally going to drop.
That was stupid. Not only did my heart, my stomach drop, my heart sang, it makes me angry. This makes me angry as a person.
I mean, stupid. I mean, we've gone past the level of stupid.
We're not stupid. We're not dumb. We're just idiots.
I wouldn't even say that. Okay, if you really want me to be point blank here, there are no words that would even top what we're thinking right now.
Yes.
Because idiots doesn't begin to describe it. Dirtbags, twits, all the words we normally throw around just for the crap.
Yeah, and the one I'm thinking of will get our podcast censored, so I'm not going to say it.
We'll deal with that off air.
Yeah. Done. Yes.
Because usually the best conversations are usually when you're not recording.
Yeah.
And that happens more than once, especially when you're off air on a broadcast.
Yes. We as folks, there's some things on this planet. There's some things that we as people, and you forgot, athletes are people too. We're a people first before we are athletes. So we need to be treated as such.
That are made of flesh, bone, brains, hearts. Folks, as the old adage goes, and I've heard it many times, you're not machines.
Yes.
You're not robots.
Even the late Aaron Hernandez is a person.
And that was a sad state of affairs on how quickly he basically deteriorated.
He killed somebody over a bet of a football game. And then after he died, he got his sexuality exposed on blast.
Literally on blast.
Yes, folks, the late Aaron Hernandez, once a New England Patriot, is great, now he washed out, a convicted killer, and now dead, is gay.
Okay.
Yep. He got put on blast as being a homosexual for having a male lover in jail. While in jail.
Yep.
And he hung himself for it.
Last, my good people.
Thanks,
and,
but...
And by the way, unmercilessly on blast.
Yes.
I mean, literally plastered to the point of where that poor dude basically couldn't even go hit the men's room to handle his business.
Well, I give him the business end of his business.
I mean, you want to talk about people being all up in somebody's business?
You don't need to.
All up in his business and then some.
Yes. Because the last thing you want to be is being there doing a naked prostate test, hey, turn your head and cough. No. No, folks.
If you go back and listen to the Sports Criminals podcast, by the way, free plug, which is right now on a hiatus. But the last episodes that they did were Ding Ding on Aaron Hernandez.
Yeah.
Before they shut it down.
And
Actually,
then,
wait a minute. No, that's not right. The last episodes they did was on the Russian drug scandal.
yes. And got shut down.
You know how those corrupt knuckleheads do up there.
And speaking of other sports, this is a conversation that should have been said. Even though soccer players are basically soccer players, the way their game is called football is ours is called football, but ours is American football. There is a man whose biopic story I had watched yesterday on Netflix. The guy's name is Joshlyn Fitzgerald, and nobody has heard of him for two reasons. After he committed suicide in 1998, number one, he actually was having sex with some MPs who were guarding the main prime minister of the English embassy.
Oh, look at that.
And the man himself had committed suicide. The main MP he had sex with had committed suicide. Then there was something that happened when he was here in New York. And what happened here in New York is that a 17-year-old boy went to the police in New York, told him that Fitzgerald had raped him.
Whoa.
And this is before he even went back to England, because he was afraid that the police here in New York would arrest him while out here on his side. Trouble seems to follow that man everywhere, and he committed suicide. Now, his brother John had later regretted not being there for him when he asked for it. He asked for his brother's help, and his brother turned him away.
There was a series on ESPN Plus that Greeny was talking about on Friday called Better Days, Bettor Days. It was like 15, 16-minute episodes on ESPN Plus.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I think it was there was a player of some sport. They did something on him. I don't know if you get ESPN Plus or not with your
Cable.
Subscription or not. Since we're on the topic of podcast and docus and things like that, just go check if you have ESPN Plus and you blow up the town subscription.
Yeah.
Just go check out Better Days, Bettor.
Yeah.
If you have it in your subscription, that is.
Yeah.
And
to the point that this is nuts. I mean, speaking of doping scandals, and I'm pretty sure that most of you have not know this, but they think that American Gladiators is a sport.
Love me some American Gladiators. I didn't like the Layla Ali Hulk version. However,
actually, it was because of that version everybody got to saw Gina Carano as for what she is, the Queen of Conviction. Gina Carano got her start on that show. She was crushed.
And the 80s version of American Gladiators with Mike Adderley and
Larry Zonka.
And then my favorite version, Mike Adderley and Larry Zonka. Word. And you can find those episodes, by the way, kids, on YouTube. And oh yeah, there could be a reboot.
Yes, there could be.
That show.
And speaking of the 2008 reboot, it also gave view of what Matt Morgan really is, a beast, the blueprint.
I hope they go back to that format where the gladiators are not pigeonholed in one event.
Not really.
I hope they go back to the format where the gladiators are